Hello and welcome. You are listening to Peace News live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. Today is Sunday, August 3rd, 2014, and I am delighted to be with you at peacenewsnow.com/live, where you can see video of this program as well as a chat room where you can interact with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Our number is 443-424-8347. That spells out Hi-Fi Civ Dis, as in civil disobedience. We've also got a Skype line. It is Peace News Now. You can send a contact request there, and you can also ask questions of our guest. Today we'll be talking, of course, as always, about various stories of peaceful resistance around the world. But first, we have a very special guest, Stefan H. Verstappen. And have I, first of all, jump on in here, Stefan. How do you correctly pronounce your last name?
You did a great job, Derek.
Okay, terrific. Yeah. You're the author of The Art of Urban Survival, a Family, Safety, and Self-Defense Manual. I've had an opportunity to peruse it. I really enjoyed what I've seen so far. I'll definitely be checking out the rest of it soon. But I thought we could talk a little bit about your expertise in the area of urban survival and also about psychopaths, because you are also the director of a documentary. What's the title of that documentary?
It's named after the first chapter in the book, and it's called Defense Against the Psychopath.
Right, and I caught up pre that as well. Really interesting stuff, and something that's been on my radar for the last little while, ever since a man who shares your name, Stefan Molyneux, started talking about psychopathy and that there may be these psychopaths that are around us, and that was something that never really occurred to me. I thought that, you know, people are all born good, and you know, we talk about peaceful resistance on this show as something that anyone can do anywhere they are in their life, in their interactions with other people, to always make sure that they're engaging in voluntary interactions, that they're true to themselves and their conscience. And there are certain people who just don't have a conscience, and that presents a real problem for us peace-loving folks. So I thought maybe you could give us a breakdown. What will we find if we read your book, The Art of Urban Survival? Who is it geared for?
Well, it's geared for, you know, really a general audience, and especially people that are not part of the kind of peace movement, activist, prepper, survivalist environment. It's for the people that aren't aware of these types of subjects, because I approach it as a very low-key. It's not fear-mongering. I'm not, you know, describing any post-apocalyptic scenarios. It's actually, it's like a first aid manual. You know, I was a first aid instructor for St. John Ambulance here in Canada for years, and I really believe in those types of programs. I think everybody should have a first aid certificate and get recertified every 2 years, because you can save lives. You know, you'll be there if something happens, and it might take quite some time for an ambulance to arrive. So I'm a big proponent of having people trained in things like that. Now, the other aspect to this is crime prevention and staying safe, and what to do during a disaster. And in that field, there is very little education. I mean, there is no crime prevention course in high school. You know, there's no emergency preparedness course in college. You know, so where are you going to learn this type of information? And why should you learn it? Well, because, as we've seen in numerous examples, when a disaster strikes, or if you're becoming the victim of a crime, the cops are not there to save you, and neither is the government there to save you. They may come minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and clean up the mess, but when a crisis strikes, an emergency, whether you're being attacked or whether you're experiencing a natural disaster or whether you're experiencing, you know, a terrorist attack, you are the person that's going to have to deal with it. You, by yourself. Nobody's coming to help you. So do you have the knowledge? Do you know what to do? And wouldn't you feel like a fool if you stood there completely helpless while things fall apart around you and people are getting hurt and they're looking towards you for guidance and leader because, you know, you may be the head of the family, you're in charge of the office, and you don't know what to do. So the book is intended to give everybody just enough information to survive any one of 100 emergency situations, from violence to war and corruption to martial law and tornadoes and nuclear attacks. Just enough information in a very straightforward manner, not trying to scare anybody. And that information I put in this book will keep you alive for 3 days. Now, after that, if it's zombie apocalypse, well, you know, I hope you will have, you know, a little bit more under your belt by then, but I'm not addressing that now because it's sort of a different subject. I want this book to be just like a first aid manual. If there's an emergency, pull it out, you know, hit the chapter that you need to hit, spend 10 minutes reading it, boom, you've got the information, now spring into action, get yourself safe, get your family safe, and that's all it's intended to be.
Seems like a great reference for those types of emergency situations. Yeah, oh, this is happening. Now I can go look it up real quick, check the reference, and then take action. And hopefully you've already read the book, so you're already prepared with, you know, whatever sort of step you would be taking. So have you been the victim of these natural disasters? How did this become important to you?
No, actually, I've lived a charmed life. I've always been sort of street smart. I kind of grew up in a bad neighborhood. We call it bad neighborhood here in Toronto, but you know, it'd be like Disneyland compared to bad neighborhoods in the U.S. But you know, you get to be a little bit street smart, and I had some training when I was younger. I was a detached street worker for a youth action project, and then I was a wilderness survival instructor for the Toronto Boys Home, which was like a group home for young men that were in trouble with the law. And my job at that time was to take them into the woods for a week at a time. We'd canoe in, we'd be far away from help. Back in the days before we had cell phones or any other way of connecting to civilization, and teach them to be self-reliant and self-sufficient. And you know, I saw firsthand the difference that makes. Boy, if you have, it gives you such confidence to be able to do things on your own, not to always rely on an authority figure to do it for you. I mean, think for yourself, do for yourself, get the skills, and that will give you the confidence you need. We don't need everybody telling you how special you are, because that doesn't work anyways, you know. So this book is kind of an outgrowth of that kind of experience as well.
And where can people pick up your book?
Well, it's on Amazon.com, of course, and Kindle, and Lulu.com, and Smashwords, and I think Smashwords distributes it to, you know, another half dozen outlets. I think iPod or iPad or something like that.
Right, and so the consumption of this media is typically digital. There's is there a print copy, or is it strictly digital?
No, you can get print copies from Amazon, and you can also get a print copy from Lulu. I used to be able to send you an autographed print copy from myself, but the cost of mailing anything here in Canada has gone so far through the roof that it will cost twice the amount of the actual cost of the book just to mail it, so I can't do that anymore. But you can get a hard copy, and Amazon will deliver it really fast. And I kind of recommend that you have a hard copy. A digital copy is good. If you're going to get a digital copy, here's a little piece of advice. Put it on a flash drive, and you know, and put a lot of things on that flash drive. Get a first aid manual, put that on a flash drive, and anything else you might need, and then keep that handy. And then if there's a blackout or something like that, hopefully you have an e-reader. You can plug the flash drive in and access it that way.
Now, the title is The Art of Urban Survival, a Family Safety and Self-Defense Manual. I want to ask you a little bit about your urban background and also about family. Do you have a family? When we come back, more with Stefan H. Verstappen, author of The Art of Urban Survival. Go check it out on Amazon. We'll be right back when Peace News Now returns from this trip to the free market.
If there was a place that liberty-minded people had...
Okay, rock on. So we're on commercial break at the moment. We are still live on YouTube, so I'm going to play the commercials for them. Just wanted to thank you for a wonderful first segment. This is going very well. Oh, I've been completely muted, so sorry about the silence. We are on a commercial break on LRN.FM right now, but we continue on YouTube, so I'm going to leave us muted and ads for the listening audience. I want to thank you, Stefan, for a wonderful first segment. This is going very well.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Derek.
Okay, terrific. So here come some ads, and we'll be back on at 5:20 Eastern. Are you on the East Coast, by the way?
Yes, I am. I'm in Toronto.
Terrific. Right, that's right. Okay, so 5:20 is when we come back. So if you need to get water or anything, you've got some time to do that.
No, I got all my beverages lined up in front.
Okay, very good. Me too. All right, we'll be back in 3 minutes.
War is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Badavi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Make the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Boost Kid Essentials Nutritionally Complete Drink, providing your picky eater with essential nutrition and great taste in one drink. Visit us at kidessentials.com. To make sure your kids eat healthy, follow the 5-a-day plan. Serve 3 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruit daily. Remember, a serving could just mean a piece of fruit or a half cup of veggies. If your kids are picky eaters, ask a nutritionist about other sources. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
Instead of just listening, you can also watch. See the Liberty Radio Network's key New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat, all free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
You can interact with other LRN listeners in our message board at forum.lrn.fm. That's forum.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. We are live speaking with our special guest, Stefan Verstappen, who is talking about the art of urban survival, something that before this week I hadn't really given that much thought about, except it is really important. I lived in urban environments most of my life. I come from Philadelphia, and if there were a disaster there, if I'm being completely honest, I would be screwed because I don't have what I need to prepare. Yeah, I brought some extra canned goods back to my house. Every time I went grocery shopping, I would pick up a couple of more items that have a long shelf life, just in case maybe the power goes off or I need some water, don't have access to something. I would pick up two-way communication so that I could walkie-talkie with some other neighbors if there was something nearby. Other than that, there's not much I could do. You know, if I was trying to get out of the city, I don't think I would be able to maneuver that very successfully. But maybe Stefan has some tips for me. If I were still living in Philadelphia, Stefan, maybe you could give me some guidance. What would be your first tip for me?
Well, you know, everyone likes the idea of having lots of gear, and you know, I think it's partly a result of our consumerist society that in order to be prepared, we need lots of gear. We need generators, we need firearms, we need, you know, 5 years supply of food and a bunker. That would be good too. You know, maybe a personnel carrier to go grocery shopping in. You know. But
yeah, it never seems to be enough. I mean, once you get one thing, once you have one bug-out bag, then you need a backup bug-out bag, and it never ends.
Yeah, and you know, I like gear too. Look, I'm a guy, and we like our toys. I like my machete, and I like my binoculars. You know, but you know, in studying history, and you know, I consider myself something of an amateur historian, and what I've seen is that, you know, the people that kind of stock up on everything and have it all stockpiled, well, their chances of surviving aren't really that much better. First of all, they tend to make themselves a target for more ruthless predators. And also, there's more of a reliance on your gear. So you you know, you think this stuff is going to save me, but the absolute ultimate survival tool is your mind and your knowledge and your awareness. Those are the tools for survival. So I think if you're smart, if you have some skills, some knowledge, and that you will survive, because a lot of times, you know, who can predict when something is going to happen? So let's, for example, say I've got my bunker in the backyard and it's stocked with, you know, everything you need, 50 caliber machine guns, flamethrowers, everything, you know. And I'm at work and suddenly the lights go out at work. Well, I've got nothing at work. You know, I can't drive home anymore because the streets are clogged and blocked, and so now I'm going to have to hoof it. So what do you do now? You know, and, you know, probably 90% of the time you spend in your life is going to be away from your stash of survival gear.
Right.
So more important, yeah, have some stuff handy. Absolutely. Have, you know, 3 weeks food and water. Good. Get a medical kit, a first aid kit. You know, just cram as much stuff into it as you can. You know, a little bit of extra doesn't hurt, because, you know, you're going to keep it in the house anyways. We're not going to be carrying this stuff and bugging out. Forget about bugging out. It's a myth.
Well, what does your everyday carry look like? I mean, do you carry? You talk about how most of the time you're going to be away from your stash. Some folks like me, I carry a two-way radio on my person all the time, just in case. You know, I always carry a knife. I often carry a gun. I carry a flashlight in my purse. So, I mean, what sort of things do you carry with you every day?
Well, first of all, I live in Canada, and as you may or may not know, we have very strict regulations against firearms. So even if my house were broken into and half a dozen men were about to proceed to gang rape my wife, I would not be allowed to use the family shotgun. I'd have to approach them with stern language, because it's illegal to defend yourself in this country. So I can't tell you about an everyday carry. What I carry every day is I have a kit in the car, which is sort of car oriented, and especially for the north. So I have like winter clothes and boots and an extra blanket and candles, and I've got lots of tools and extra oil, gas, windshield wiper fluid, and coolant, things like that. I also do a lot of biking. I bicycle everywhere, so in my backpack I carry my bicycle repair kit. You know, I can fix the chain, I can replace the tires. And
do you bike with that?
Oh yeah, I take that wherever I go. And inside there's also a pocket emergency kit, but more specifically for a city environment, so I don't have, you know, fishing hooks and snare wire in there.
Yeah, but so what sort of a level of freedom does this afford you to be able to carry this backpack? Of course, it's burdensome in some respects, but Tell me how free it makes you feel. Or do you feel more burdened?
No, I don't feel burdened at all. First of all, the all the equipment and everything fits into a package about the size of a 3x5 Altoids tin. So that's all my tools and everything fit in there. I have a knife that I use, which is mostly a tool because for fixing the bike, but on the other hand, it's also got a pretty nasty blade on it, and so if I need it as a weapon, I've been a martial artist and I taught martial arts for 25 years. I've been doing it for 40 years. I have never had to hit anybody. I've never even had to raise my voice at anybody. So. I have a knife. Will I ever use it? I can't imagine ever using it. But on the other hand, it's there. It makes me feel a little bit better knowing it's there because I could do some serious damage with it. But I can't imagine a situation where I'd ever have to pull it. However, my bicycle repair kit, I've used that dozens of times. That's come in really handy. Like the time I was bicycling through Compton and I got a flat tire and the sun was going down.
Uh-oh.
And
that's not what you want. That's a horrible situation. Well, you're the kind of person who I would want instructing me about these types of survival techniques, because typically when I peruse the internet for what should I keep in my bug-out bag, or what sort of gun should I buy for self-defense, it's like army drill sergeants who are making these suggestions, and they're shouting at me, and they're all excited, And you mentioned not even having to raise your voice. That's awesome, because I want to have the types of interactions with people on the street where we walk away in peace. Where I want to be peaceful in word and deed all the time, even in self-defense situations.
Let me give you an example of peaceful intervention, and this is a true story. I was 16. I'd run away from home. I went to Calgary. And I was living in the bad part of town in Calgary, and I was driving a pickup truck. And I was walking down the street. It was like a Sunday morning, and there was this really nasty guy, and he was beating the living daylights out of this woman. And there was nobody else on the street. And this guy you could tell he was really a street thug. Maybe he was a pimp, I don't know. And the woman was screaming, and nobody was stopping to help her or do anything. And I'm just...
Yeah, you'll have to leave that story there. I want to hear the rest of that story of what happens to that poor woman. Plus, in the next segment, I'd like to get into talking about psychopaths. What are they? How can we identify them? How can we stay away from them? What do we do if we have psychopaths in our own family? What if we're dating a psychopath? We'll talk about all that and more. This is Peace News Now.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually.
Whoa. Hey. Who do you think? Excuse me.
There is no video or audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait a minute.
Forget the road.
Whoa. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Because you're scared of me. What am I being detained for?
You're being fair.
What is this? What is this?
Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Are you a political activist who does things that the government might not like? Then this free ebook may save your life. Rats is your guide to protecting yourself against snitches, informers, informants, agents provocateur, narcs, finks, and similar vermin. Rats was written by OG libertarian Claire Wolfe. Rats is a short book, easy to read, and available free in many formats. Download Rats free at rats-nosnitch.com. That's rats-nosnitch.com.
Do you know the difference between erudite and pedantic? If you do, you're probably pedantic. But seriously, a surprising number of erudite people mispronounce erudite, which has 3 syllables, not 4. Say erudite, not erudite, because you are judged by how you speak, you want to avoid common misstatements, especially if you're a job seeker. For instance, do you know the difference between imply and infer? Only a speaker can imply, only a listener can infer. And when you say you'll be out of pocket, do you mean out of touch? Out of pocket means you're on your own dime, not yet reimbursed. And if anyone ever asks, why do you always answer a question with a question? You should reply, do I do that? Just kidding. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same great prices, and LRN gets a cut. Please do your online shopping at shop.lrn.fm.
A meme is not easy to define.
What is it?
But you know it when you see it.
Amazing.
Don'tTreadOnMeme.com proves that.
I feel so enlightened.
Don't Tread on Memes, M-E-M-E, helping you give the finger to our monetary system of deception by providing you with silver dime trading cards. Unlike today's dollar, they have value, and they look neat too.
Oh, would you look at those? Aren't those just swell?
Don'tTreadOnMeme.com. While you're browsing their numerous silver dime card designs, take time to download the easy-to-use Silver Calculator app. This simple piece of technology lets you know instantly, whether using iPhone or Android, just how much your silver coin is worth. Find out all the details at Don'tTreadOnMeme.com. Now accepting Bitcoin. Don't Tread on Meme, your path to a voluntary society with honest money. Don'tTreadOnMeme.com, serving you faster than the Fed prints money.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's
Okay, we're coming right back.
amp.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. We are chatting live with the author of The Art of Urban Survival. You, of course, are always welcome to take control and ask whatever questions you may have of this guest by dialing in. 443-424-8347 is our free call-in line, and you can also dial in on Skype, as some guests are doing. We have a listener who's asking a couple of questions of our guests. We'll get into those in this segment. Plus, I want to hear the remainder of Stefan's story. Plus, let's talk about psychopaths. Stefan, welcome back. So when you last left off, you were telling us about a story that happened in an urban environment, a self-defense story. So what happened?
Okay, so and this is an example of using your mind instead of your body and your guns and things to solve a problem. So quick story short, I'm a snot-nosed kid runaway living in a bad part of town, and I come across a nasty-looking guy beating the living crap out of a woman. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that can pretend I don't see what's going on and walk away. I've been like that my whole life, and that's partly why I'm writing the book and partly why I'm going, on radio shows and talking about this, because I can't just pretend I didn't see what's going on.
Wow.
So what am I going to do? I mean, there's no way I can challenge this guy. I'm going to run up to him, and a little skinny 16-year-old and say, "Hey, mister, leave that woman alone," or what,
But that's what your insides tell you to do, right? I mean, that's what your conscience
That was
says.
my first reaction, exactly. But I knew that wasn't going to help anything unless I wanted to get beaten up as well. So, and it's a domestic abuse situation. If the cops responded to this situation, they would send 8 guys, right?
Of course, yeah, they always overreact to situations.
Overreact. Oh, there's a domestic in the street. There'd be 8 cop cars there, 16 guys, with guns drawn.
Oh,
right?
all their adrenaline pumping, yeah, they're ready for a fight, ready
So
to
here
take
I am,
down some victim.
a 16-year-old. I don't have an everyday carry. I'm not carrying anything. So it came to me, and I ran up to the guy, and I said, "Hey, mister, the guy down the street just called the cops on you." And he turned to me, and he said, "Thanks, kid." and he ran off.
There you go. You saved a life. I mean, or you saved him at least a little bit.
You know, because there was nobody else there, and this was long before the day of cell phones, and there was no guy down the street calling the cops. And so the woman thanked me. She knew I was bluffing, and this guy took off, and he thanked me because he thought I was.
Yeah, he thought you saved him.
But what I did was I stopped the situation. I ended the violence. I didn't pull a gun. I didn't pull a heavy. I didn't have to pick up a baseball bat, because if you're smart and you can think on your feet, you will survive these things.
Right, and you don't have to be a hero. That's what I think a lot of people, you know, when they walk around with a gun, they think, oh, I'm going to stop all the bad guys. I'm going to be a vigilante and be a hero. But often the heroes are more subtle in their ways, like you were, thinking on their feet and just being clever. So we've got a question from the chat room. Pang Lee asks, what do you do when a cop asks you to get out of your car, and then later brings drug dogs? They make the dogs jump and then search your car, but I guess they find nothing. And I guess this is a situation that happens to a lot of individuals. It's sort of, I would like to say it's uncommon, but it's seemingly becoming more common. Is this the type of? Do you have any advice for this questioner?
Oh, absolutely. There's a chapter in the book on how to deal with police, and it discusses situations like that. Now, this is not the time to start arguing about your liberty and your human rights. I'm sorry, I know people think that, you know, it's outrageous. I'm outraged by it. It is an abuse of their authority. It is a violation of our civic rights. But here's the thing again. I want you to survive till tomorrow. So my advice is, when you're encountering armed men, you speak softly and you comply with what they're telling you to do. What are you going to do? Make an argument? This guy's not going to argue with you. He's not a trial lawyer. He's got his job to do. He's been programmed or brainwashed to carry out these functions in exactly this order, 1, 2, and 3, and that's all he's going to do. There's no reasoning with him. There's no saying, listen, you know, we're all free human beings. We should settle this peacefully. Forget about reasoning with these people. They're doing a job. They're not being human at that time. And they have guns. So if you get pulled over, the police say, get out of the car. Get out of the car. What choice do you have? You have no choice anyways. So the best thing to do is be humble. I know some people think that's swallowing your pride, but I refer to the great strategist Sun Tzu, who wrote in the book The Art of War, the most important thing is you do not fight battles that you cannot win. And when you are up against armed authority that have the ability to call in another 40 guys with machine guns, do you think you can win that battle? You really think that your big mouth now is going to win over? No, your big mouth might get you shot. So comply. I hate to say it, but that's what you have to do now.
Well, what about recording with a video camera? Being prepared ahead of time and having a video camera or some sort of dash cam could be your saving grace.
Absolutely, and that's in the book as well, that if you think you're being harassed or you're being persecuted, then definitely carry a hidden, at least an audio recorder. Most of the MP3 players and things like that will pick up audio as well, and or a cell phone or some other sort of device. But
and they don't have to be expensive. For our listeners at home, I just purchased a dash cam that was only $50 on Amazon. And I'm not doing any sort of advertisement. I'm just saying that's how affordable they've become now. It's a dash cam. It does a camera forward and a camera backwards, and it's constantly recording on a loop for $50. I mean, a one-time fee could save your life.
Yeah, it's a great idea, Derek, and it's well worth the investment. It's like an insurance policy.
Yeah, it's better than an insurance policy, and even sometimes real insurance companies will give you a break if you have a dash cam, so you might even want to report that to them. So Let's talk about psychopaths, because I got to see an amazing introduction that I see that you produced about psychopaths and how to identify them, and what can we do if there are psychopaths in our lives? What do we do, Stefan?
Yeah, that's it's very difficult to deal with psychopaths. Now, what I mentioned earlier about not being able to turn a blind eye to things. Part of my life too is, yes, I like the survival and the outdoor stuff, but I've also been a very socially conscious. And I've always wondered why so many things always go wrong in our society. And then I was researching my first book called The 36 Strategies of Ancient China. And I was doing a lot of historical research on the dynasties, the Chinese, the Japanese dynasties, and also added some, from Rome and Greece and ancient Egypt. And I started to notice that all these great leaders of history were nasty people. They were, first of all, I realized I could never be a king or an emperor because I don't have the cruelty it takes to get into that type of a position and to rule. These people were monsters. 90% of them, they murdered their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their wives, their husbands, their children.
Right. People are attracted to power.
They are attracted to power, exactly. So, and then I've also been politically conscious, and so, what's the best political system? Is it a democracy? Is it a Republican constitutional democracy? Well,
Winston Churchill says that democracy is the worst form of government, accepting all the others.
Yeah, and which is a good answer, except that I would argue with that. I would think a benign dictatorship is fine.
A benign dictatorship. Let's talk about that. When Stefan returns, we're talking about psychopaths, how to identify their lies and deception, plus ways to reduce your own anger and aggression. When Peace News Now returns.
If you want to...
Okay, cool. Hey, so we're going to be on the final segment starting in 4 minutes. I want to make sure that we hit everything that you wanted to get in the show today. So
yeah.
Make sure if you've got something to plug or something you want to say, just go ahead and talk right over me and get it all out there. It's a 10-minute segment.
Covered it. You mentioned the title of my book, and that's fine. That's terrific.
Great.
And I guess answering the question about the psychopaths, or I'm not sure. What was there a second question?
Yes. Yeah. Right. When we come back from commercial break, I want to ask you about what do we do if there are psychopaths in our lives? Like there are some people in my
I'll bring
life.
it back to a personal level then.
Yeah, and also I've got a brief story that I'd like to share with you and the audience about an attack recently. I was recently assaulted by some thugs on the street, and
where are you now?
Right now, I am in Keene, New Hampshire.
Oh.
And it's usually a nice, quiet town, but I was violently attacked by a gang of thugs who wanted to destroy my camera for recording them. And they didn't want to hurt me. It seems.
Were they street thugs or uniformed thugs?
Street thugs. Street thugs, yeah. And I was criticized for the way that I handled the situation, for appearing too weak, for not running from the thugs. Different people had different input about how I handled it. I would be very curious to hear your input about how I handled it. So I'll retell that story when we come back, and maybe you can give me your angle.
Sure. We're not going to have enough time in 10 minutes, so why don't we just do your story then?
Oh, I think we will do my story, but I would like to cram more in because I'm so curious about your thoughts on identifying these psychopaths. It's so important. It's so important because I think a lot of people live their lives around these sociopaths, and they fall victim to them when they could just separate themselves instead.
Yeah, and I had to write an addendum to my to that chapter and let people know, because a lot of people say, well, now that I know who they are, let's kill them all. Let's kill them all.
Oh, horrible! That's not a solution.
But that is not the solution. Or let's test for them. Let's make a test. Everybody has to pass a test to prove they're not a psychopath. Well, that's not going to work.
Yeah, but like you said, it's sort of like left-handedness, where it's sort of inborn, or I don't know if maybe there's something to do with childhood trauma that we could work to reduce the number of psychopaths. Like some argue the fatherlessness in the culture has led to a lack of empathy in the population.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, we seem to be having more of them, you know.
Yeah, so, all right, well, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to have to rebook you if that's all right with you.
Again, we'll some more.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot to share.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we come back in 40 seconds.
Okay.
All right.
Default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. One quick 10-minute call could help you solve your student loan problems. So call right now. Not available in all states. Payments may vary based on income. 800-215-6813. 800-215-6813. 800-215-6813. 800-215-6813.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Psychopaths, violent criminals. How do we protect ourselves against them? Well, recently I was attacked by a gang of thugs, ununiformed thugs. Most people, when I say that, they're thinking police, but no. I was walking down the streets and recording, as I always do, for my Truman Show-esque YouTube channel, where I record my life. And there were some people who weren't very happy that I was recording them in my frame. And they walked over to my camera and said, "Don't film me." And I said, "Well, I think it's important to film you because you're violent and I may be in danger. So I need to make sure that I continue to record me and you." And at that point, some more thugs came and approached me. I was completely surrounded, and the one thug decided to take my camera, hit it off of the tripod down to the ground so that I could no longer record. At that point, I pulled out my second backup camera, which is my cell phone, hit the live streaming app, and went live to stream what was happening to me, just in case that next camera was destroyed. At least the video would be out there, regardless of whether or not I had time to upload it. So that went out online. Then the thugs grabbed that phone, smashed that to the ground. And at that point, I was without a camera and without communication. I was stuck and surrounded by a gang of thugs. I had no idea what to do, and I didn't even know if I was able to get away safely. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? Did I do anything right?
So what happened, Derek? I want to hear the end of it.
Well, strangely enough, these thugs happened to have called the police on me before coming over to attack me. And when the police came, they didn't come to investigate a man recording. They came to investigate 2 assaults.
God, you know, there's an article everybody should Google on the internet. It's called "The Law of Stupid."
You can't fix stupid. It's a shame, and I love to see when people who love the government they go and use the government, and then it backfires.
Yeah.
So I like private arbitration. I like peaceful mediation, and I would never have called the police on them, but they called the police essentially on themselves.
Yeah. Well, you got lucky, Derek. You know, if you were my student, my kung fu student, and I was your sensei, I would smack you up the side of the head.
Because I should have run?
No, because you should have seen them coming and avoided it before they even saw you.
Yeah.
The thing, you know, what I say is, if you find yourself in a situation where you're in a dark street surrounded by gang members, and you're the center of their attention, you have done 3 things wrong already. 1, you didn't see this stuff a mile away coming and just cross the street or go the other direction. 2, if you did finally see it, but it was you weren't able to avoid it, that you didn't escape immediately the situation. You know, back up. And 3, talk your way out of it, you know. So, and you know, be smart and figure out a way to get through it and say, oh yeah, okay, I'm turning it off. See this red light that's flashing? That means it's off. You know?
Yeah, right.
Because look at what you're dealing with. You know, criminals are not geniuses. That's why they're on the street mugging you. If they were geniuses, they would be running the bank that's mugging you.
Right. Okay. Well, important distinction, and I appreciate your honesty with that assessment. I know I did.
I would be concerned for you, and you're lucky that time. Yeah, you know.
I got lucky. I did a lot of things wrong. And,
yeah, if you had called cops, you're surrounded. Now, let's say one of them is a little bit twitchy because he just, you know, did a line of meth, you know, and that stuff drives people insane. They will behave irrationally.
Yes.
And now this guy suddenly gets it into his head. He wants to impress all the other gang members, so he's going to pull out his little Saturday night pocket pistol and put one in your spine, and there's Derek in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Is that worth what?
No, it's not worth anything. Not worth the video I would get. And I think that was my temptation, was like, I want this great video. You know, I always am, as a video person, I'm always looking for that golden shot. You know, oh, look at the violence that's inherent in this belief system that, you know, we use violence instead of words to solve our problems, and look how much that fails. That's what I'm always trying to aim for with my camera. And I captured that day, but at quite a cost. It could have been a much greater cost to myself. Yeah.
Well, one word for you, Derek: telescopic lens.
Yeah, that's right. So let's talk about anger and aggression and ways that we can diminish it in our own lives. You've got some words of wisdom to share on that.
Again, there's a chapter in the book on aggression, how to recognize it in other people. Well, you know, people go through physiological changes as they become more and more angry, and you can see it in their face becoming flushed and the hair becoming erect on the back of their neck, and them starting to sweat. And
so you mean immediate changes, right? Not like angry people who are generally angry. Do they have physiological changes as well?
Well, yes, actually, you can see it. It's a little bit more subtle. There is a thing called kinesthetic intelligence, and it affects the way a person moves and behaves. And if you're aware of it, if you're sensitive to sort of body language, you can read a person's body language really well. I can tell myself, because of all the martial arts training, I'm so used to looking at people's postures and trying to read their body language, that I can tell from, 40 yards what kind of a person it is, whether they're an easy mark or whether they have some self-confidence or whether they know what they're doing just by the way they walk. I know it sounds almost, mystical or whatever, but it
isn't. It has something to do with the way people carry their head, their posture.
Exactly.
It shows their intention. I look for that as well.
Yeah, and so angry people, it will affect their posture.
Yeah.
They will grow into the posture of anger, and with all the the kind of health problems that would cause as well. So recognize it in others, but also learn to control it in yourself. And I'm going to refer to a quote by Miyamoto Musashi, who was Japan's greatest swordsman and wrote the book called The Book of Five Rings. And he said that the angry man defeats himself in battle. So you cannot allow yourself to be angry, because when you're angry, you can't think. And as we mentioned earlier, the most important tool to any survival situation is your ability to think. So you have to control your own anger. When I look at what's going on in our society today and the injustice, look anywhere. There's 1,000 reasons to be angry, and I am angry. But I go out every night and I do my Tai Chi and I calm down and I enjoy nature. I live by the lake, so I look at the skyline and the trees and the water. I talk to the ducks, and I'm calm. Because you can't think straight if you're always agitated. And so peace is the way to go again. But in inner peace, right?
Yes. And do you recommend any particular exercises? Like, there were some peace activists in the '60s who used to endure high amounts of stress that they would inflict on each other to prepare themselves for situations of real stress. so that they can think clearly, so that they've had practice knowing what to do. And I can pull another story from this week where I was in a car trying to get up close to another car to read the license plates. It was a high-stress situation, and I was failing to use my two-way radio effectively because I wasn't thinking. I wasn't taking the time. I wasn't prepared with those stress exercises. What do you recommend to help people think well under stress?
Also in the book, there's a bunch of relaxation exercises. You see, the best way to do it is to train yourself through behavioral conditioning. I know it sounds terrible, but the thing about behavioral conditioning is it works. So you can use visualization and muscular relaxation techniques and deep breathing techniques, and if you combine them with sort of like a keyword or a code word and practice this a few times, it really doesn't take that long to master it, but you do have to do it. You have to practice it. And this is, where people fail, because they think about it and they go, okay, no, you really have to practice it. Do it once a night for 2 weeks and you've got it mastered. And then when you feel yourself, because it works not only to control your anger, but also to control your fear, because the two are very similar in their physiological reactions. So deep breathing, relaxation, learning how to control the muscles and relax the entire body instantly, so that the shoulders drop down, and that's the best way to go.
Well, he's got more tips for you. Stefan H. Verstappen. He's the author of The Art of Urban Survival, a Family Safety and Self-Defense Manual. Go and pick it up at Amazon.com today. I'm reading my own copy, so we'll talk about it more again in the future. And Stefan, I'd love to have you on again if you would join us.
I'd love to be on, Derek. It's been great.
This is Peace News Now. Okay, rock on. Well, that was it. We have another segment coming up, but this is going to be a news hour. So I really appreciate you being our guest in the last hour, Stefan. A lot of things to learn.
Yeah, let's do it again in some in a little while, and we can go over all kinds, because there's so much in the book and there's so many useful tips. And again, my approach is the same as your approach. It's nonviolent. It's about our attitudes and solving these problems smartly without having to resort to anger and indignation and violence and things like that.
That's what's going to win. I think about it all the time. It's the story of the Cyclops and Odysseus, and how the Cyclops was so much stronger than all of the men combined, but they used their wits to outsmart him. And I think that's how peace and freedom will come to the world.
Yeah, we got to outwit them, outfox them, because if we resort to violence, we're playing their game,
Right, and that's a game. That's the game they win.
That's the game they win. Yeah.
We'll choose our own battlefield of wits. So, all right, thank you so much, Stefan. I'm going to disconnect and free up our line for other callers. Yep. But thank you so much, and I'll send you an email with a link to this episode.
Oh, terrific! Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Talk to you later.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm.
Liberty activists around the country are starting to realize politics alone won't set us free. So what will? At Liberty on the Rocks, we believe the answer starts with living your principles, spreading ideas, and connecting with those around you. By starting a Liberty on the Rocks network, you can make a difference by uniting libertarian thinkers. Find out how much fun it is to build your local network from the ground up. Visit libertyontherocks.org today to get started.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, August 3rd, 2014. Silver is trading at $20.32 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,294 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $583. Antiwar.com reports the ability of most of the foreign ISIS fighters to maintain its control over broad swaths of territory in Iraq and Syria has rested on their ability to make a deal with tribal factions, giving them considerable autonomy. Tempers are flaring in the eastern Deir ez-Zor province of Syria, however, where several villages along the highway near the Iraqi border are in open revolt, with days of fighting and ISIS sending reinforcements to try to retake the villages. Reports suggest the trouble started when ISIS violated their agreement with tribal leaders and captured one of their local tribes. The villagers from 3 local villages marched on nearby Al-Ashara and burned the ISIS headquarters to the ground. The 3 villages in revolt are Kishkiya, Abu Hammam, and Granij. 3 villages not far from Al-Bukamal, the ISIS-held city bordering Iraq's Anbar province, which is likewise under ISIS control. In the heartland of the new ISIS country, there is no serious chance 3 villages will be able to withstand an ISIS assault, but the anger there reflects the difficulty this faction is going to have in retaining its caliphate without the support of locals. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Bitcoin Not Bombs. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. Politico reports a Florida judge on Friday asked the state legislature to redraw the state's congressional map by August 15th, holding out the possibility that Florida could postpone some or all of its House elections until after the scheduled general election on November 4th. After weeks of nudging from Democratic groups and uncertainty for candidates running in House races, Circuit Judge Terry Lewis, who previously ruled the state's congressional map violated the Florida Constitution, on Friday provided some clarity on how a new map could still affect the 2014 election. Lewis wrote in the decision, "Even if a revised map was in place today, the legal and logical machinations it would take to have the election on November 4th under that revised map is not something justified by law or common sense," adding, "There is no way legally or logistically to put in place a new map, amend the various deadlines, and have elections on November 4th as prescribed by federal law. However, it might be possible to push the general election date back to allow for a special election in 2014 for any affected districts." Lewis, who ruled last month that the Republican-controlled legislature made a mockery of Florida's Fair Districts Amendment by taking politics into consideration when drawing 2 of the state's 27 congressional districts, asked the legislature to submit a remedial or revised map within 2 weeks, denying their request that the map not be put in place until after the 2014 election. But Lewis did not take Democrat suggestions to have an independent special master redraw the maps. A hearing is set for August 20th, less than a week before the scheduled primary elections. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They now take Bitcoin for purchasing precious metals so you can turn your profits into a long-term investment. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing. 800-874-9760. Reuters reports a North Carolina man died and 20 people were hospitalized due to an apparent drug overdose during a pop and dance music festival in Maryland, according to authorities. Tyler Fox Viscardi, 20 years old, of Raleigh, North Carolina, died after being taken to the hospital at 9 p.m. Friday after he attended an all-day Mad Decent Block Party festival in Columbia, about 20 miles southwest of Baltimore. Authorities said Viscardi died of an apparent drug overdose, and investigators are working to determine what type of drugs were in his system. The Mad Decent Block Party travels throughout the United States. Investigators have said similar circumstances have unfolded at other Mad Decent Block Party events across the country. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
We have a breaking news blast on the tragic situation happening across the country, in which more than 40,000 Americans have been trapped in a Confessions animal hoarding marathon on Animal Planet for the last 13 hours. The Animal Hoarders Marathon began at 9 this morning as victims were preparing for a full day before hearing the fateful sound of the show's opening credits. Almost instantly, thousands were pinned to their couches by a story of a heavyset homosexual living with his partner, his toothless sister, and 31 chihuahuas. Rescue workers rushed to free as many victims as they could.
The rope secure? Rope secure. We're going to get you out of here. Just hold on a second, ma'am.
Wait, I think the next one is about monkeys.
Ready? Ready. Pull!
No, wait. Can I just see what happens with the feral cat?
In other parts of the country, rescue workers enlisted volunteers who had already seen the episodes to spoil them for the victims.
Oh, yeah, this one. This is about the lady living with the dogs in the trailer. She doesn't even get evicted in the end.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back. This is Peace News. We're live if you're listening Sunday, August 3rd, 2014 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're broadcasting from Keene in the Shire. That's New Hampshire, of course. And I read something pretty funny about Bloomberg's anti-gun ad and how it's drawing attention because people think that this gun ad is pro-gun. Take a look.
So Mayor Bloomberg, what has he been doing since he left City Hall? Well, he's running a pretty influential anti-gun lobbying group, lobbying members of Congress and also hitting the airways with pretty powerful PSAs.
The group is called Every Town.
Okay, we're going to take a break from that commercial to answer a phone call. We've got a call on the line. Okay, connecting. Hey, caller, you are on the air. Hey, caller, you're on the air on Peace News Now. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just listened to your last guest. He was talking about the best form of government being a benevolent dictatorship.
Yes, he considered a benevolent dictatorship to be possibly the best form of government. Just sort of thinking out loud. I don't think he holds a hard stance on that.
Okay, well, I actually have a interesting thought about that because supposedly back in Atlantean times, they had like initiated priesthood, but a more current comment about that is there was the story which was never told about Hitler, and that was he went from 500,000 marks for a loaf of bread in hyperinflation to the leading economy in Europe, highest technology and art and science in 3 years.
According to what standard?
Just like on the world stage, like everybody, like he won Time Magazine of the Year for like this accomplishment. He made 6 million jobs in 3 years from hyperinflation.
Wait a minute. Okay, Time Magazine Man of the Year doesn't mean much. It's been awarded to several dictators. It's even most recently been awarded to the former head of the Federal Reserve. So
right. Yeah, that's not a very good indicator. That's not anything. But
yeah, and how can you say that someone's like the top in art? Isn't that a subjective thing?
Yeah, but let's say.
And is it really Hitler's responsibility? He wasn't painting.
Before that period, postmodernism was taking over, and that's basically throwing paint splatters on the wall or like shitting in a box and calling it art. Like he brought back like a higher standard. Like he kind of threw out all the.
So what are you saying here? That genocide is okay if you can produce good art?
Like this is what I'm trying to like emphasize here. Either I'm talking about the economics and the technology.
I'm skeptical that a benevolent dictator is could even exist. I mean, if you become a dictator, don't you have a thirst for power already, and aren't you probably a psychopath, as we just talked about in the first hour?
That's definitely possible, and it's probably most likely the case. Yeah. But we're talking about an enlightened, initiated person that has been initiated properly to know what is best for him and for his people. In a God's eye view.
So do you think that any one man or group of men could decide what's best for 300 million people or 7 billion people?
Well, let me just like, can I go over the summary? I like wrote to you on Skype, and then from that context, I can expand on it, because
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Is that okay?
Say what you want.
Okay, so basically what Hitler did in those 3 years is he kicked out all the international bankers. Like, he used I guess a blanket racist term like Jew, whatever, but I'm not racist.
What evidence do you have that he kicked out international bankers? Because from my readings, the Germans, the Allies, and the enemy. Okay, so both sides were funded by international bankers, and that's been happening since forever.
Right. If you look at some not acknowledged or like not allowable documents or history, you'll see that he nationalized the German banking system under his government, and like.
Well, what does that surprise anybody? Nationalizing means he took ownership of it.
Right.
That's
he took
what a
ownership
dictatorship does.
Right. That's correct. And then he created his own monetary currency called the Reichsmark, and issued that under nationalism, that a sovereign nation can create their own money, and backed up by the inventiveness and the hard work and.
Oh, baloney! That's a legal fiction.
The people, but like
Fiat,
I'm saying, that's what
fiat money is a legal fiction. There's no real value behind any of it, except for the value that each of us contributes to the market.
It's a unit of account, but like I'm saying, what he did was he created public works like the Autobahn, and created a car company called Volkswagen, and he paid them out by the currency that the Reich created, and those people would spend their money on the shops, and so he created 6 million jobs from hyperinflation, where like 50% unemployment. He got full employment, and then
yeah, wait. If you give everyone the job of digging holes, then you have 100% employment. If you take away all their tractors and all their mechanization, then you've got 1,000 times more employment. I mean, employment is not always the end-all, be-all. I would like to be unemployed, lazy, and relaxing in a sea of plenty. But since I have to work all day, like that's not an ideal. Shouldn't we mechanize all?
Okay, you could do that, but he didn't, because he was somewhat benevolent, and he created like a national highway system and a car.
How is that benevolent? Now wait a minute. How is it benevolent to steal everyone's money and then order them around to tell them what to do? Meanwhile, throwing hundreds of thousands of people into ovens, millions of people.
Like I know in your context, like most dictatorships are evil.
All dictatorships are evil because people don't choose them and they kill people.
Right. Well, like actually, he was elected, but like that's not the point. The point is
no. Elected doesn't mean that everybody chose him. You understand that, right? Because I didn't vote for Bush, I didn't vote for Obama, and I didn't choose them as my leader.
Right. So I'm saying, like, okay, everybody's money was already stolen at that point. He was in a state of hyperinflation. He gave their currency international value by demanding that if you wanted to buy the German goods, you had to buy in the currency that the Reichsmark.
Okay, and so some dictators can do some good things. Is that your point?
My point is,
I'll concede that some dictators can have some good.
I'm not saying that I'm like, I know full well, but I'm saying that your caller's premonition that a benevolent dictatorship might be the best or like a really good form of government is actually not a joke. Because,
I think it's baloney. I know some people consider it real. I think you consider it to be a real good solution. I have yet to see a benevolent dictator, and when one comes along, I'm going to be highly skeptical.
Yeah, it's really actually pretty hard to have one, because it's almost like impossible to have like an initiated person.
Yeah, I think the closest we got was Ron Paul, who was in Congress for something like 3 decades, and at the end of his second or third presidential run said, you know what? There's no can do with this. This is not a solution. Politics is not the answer. Give it up and look outside the system for your solutions. Look inside yourself for your solutions. That's where world peace really comes from. This is Peace News Now.
I'm here to take it.
Still on the air? You're still there? We're on a break. Oh. Hey caller, you're still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we're on a break right now. We have 4 minutes, and I was going to continue with some news segments. Did you get out everything you basically wanted to say, or you have one more point?
I guess pretty much I got my idea across. But,
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't mind continuing the chat, but then we have to go once it's time for news segment time. But so, are you for real that you think that benevolent dictators could be a good thing, or are you just playing devil's advocate here?
No, I'm for real, but actually, it's like you have to have a proper education and a proper creation mythos and a proper understanding of the place of humanity in the universe to actually become a benevolent dictatorship.
Yeah, but everyone has a different idea about those things. And if there's some dictator who says, okay, or if it's you, if it's Kang the dictator, and you're saying, well, I'm so benevolent, I know what's best for all 300 million of my subjects because I'm super brilliant and I have a supercomputer. I know all the right answers. I should still be able to say, I don't care. I don't want your choices enforced on me, and I own my body, so therefore I own all my own choices. So
that's correct too. That's actually correct. But a benevolent dictator wouldn't infringe on those rights either.
A benevolent dictator wouldn't do those things. I see.
Right. Like you have to take it as a.
It's not gonna happen, man. It's not gonna happen.
What's possible? Say what's possible to happen?
No, because a benevolent dictator would have to lie to the dumbed-down, bootlicking population who loves their servitude, who love their chains, and he would have to lie and say, I'm going to keep giving you all sorts of welfare, I'm going to keep giving you all the handouts of government, and then he would have to not do those things. He would have to lie to them.
Let me just finish out like Hitler's example real quick. Okay. So he made these public works, dollar bomb, whatever, and paid out and whatever. Also, a side effect from all that is there was no taxes, because why would you need taxes if the nation can create some money to pay for things? So there was no taxes.
Yes, there were.
He didn't do it, but
yes, there are. There are taxes. They're invisible taxes. When you print money, you're stealing from people's savings. That's a type of inflation.
That's what happens with a debt-based money system, but he didn't have a debt-based money system. There was no taxes because it wasn't based on borrowing money to create currency.
Baloney. It was fiat money. It was fiat. It was by decree. The international bankers prop up all fiat empires. This is no different. Why do you have some hang-up about Hitler being some good guy? Where'd you learn this? Are you in university or something?
I graduated university 10 years ago. I've learned this through alternative channels and finding out real history and
real history, the one that says Hitler was benevolent.
And finding out about ancient civilizations and all that stuff. I've gone through many facets of reality and all sorts of.
Well, I've got a lot I can learn from you, but I'm very skeptical. I'd like to see some more evidence. Call in again sometime.
I can send your way. Sure, I can do that for you.
I would love that. Thank you so much for the call, Kang. I really appreciate the interesting discussion. All right, I'll chat with you again soon. Cheers.
All right. Bye.
LRN.FM.
Welcome back to Peace News. We were chatting with Kang, the benevolent dictator. He's got some interesting ideas. I don't think they'll work. What do you think? Dial in 443-424-8347 is our call-in line. spells out hi-fi civ dis. You can also Skype into the program by calling Peace News Now. Now, in the last segment, we were talking about Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City, and his campaign against guns. He wants
Mayor
to get
Bloomberg,
guns out
what
of
has
the
he
home.
been doing since he left City Hall? Well, he's running a pretty influential anti-gun lobbying group, lobbying members of Congress and also hitting the airways with pretty powerful PSAs.
The group is called Every Town for Gun Safety. It released a new ad linking guns to domestic violence.
Now check this out. It's very controversial. It's pretty intense. Take a look. Remember, the message here is supposed to be anti-gun, do away with guns.
It's my ex. He's trying to break in.
Do you have a restraining order?
This is my house. Please, my son is here.
Open the door! I need you to stay calm.
Just broke in the door. You need to come now. Get away from him. Hey! Get away! Get out of here!
I'm taking it!
Is that wild or what? That is very, very intense. Now, some
Hard to
people
watch.
they're seeing this commercial, and some people are wondering, gosh, maybe the woman should have a gun. Some are wondering if the opposite message is coming across here. It's up for debate. For more on this and reaction, we go to Juliet Huddy. She's in.
We don't need to hear from Julia, but we can watch that video again, and I want to provide a little bit of commentary on that because there are a few things wrong with this video. I think you'll
take
a careful
remember,
viewer
the message
will
here is supposed to
identify
be
them.
anti-gun. Do away with guns.
It's my ex. He's trying to break in.
Do you have a restraining order? This is my house!
Please.
Yes, she does have a restraining order, she says. However, of what use is that when a man is trying to break into your home? Oh, I have a restraining order. Okay, well then this guy's going to face some extra punishment when he gets caught. Is that really a deterrent? Obviously not. He's at your door, still breaking in, still doing what he wants. Let's continue.
Please, my son is here.
Open the door!
Okay, and he kicks in the door while this woman is on the phone in the living room right next to the door. She is just failing so massively at having any defenses for herself. It's really like if this weren't such a dramatic scene of violence, it would be hilarious because she is so ill-prepared for this situation.
You need to come now. Get away from him.
Calling the police, saying, "Oh, you need to come." And now she tries to hit her husband, Guy. She's smacking at his back, totally defenseless, so weak. I mean, this is like the perfect situation where a woman would need to have a gun to say, "Get the out of my house. You're not taking this kid. You're a violent psychopath. Now get the hell out of here. I've already called the police." If she had a gun, it would have been an equalizer. This guy had his own gun. He pulls it out and uses it on her. So what happens when you don't have a gun to defend yourself? You become a victim. Anyway, just something I thought was interesting because a lot of people are not getting the point. The top comment on this article reads, "Hey, Mr. Mayor, how long would it have taken for your peace officers to arrive on the scene? This woman should have been armed. She was in her home, and there was a break-in. She had a right to defend herself." But, that's not the message that that Michael Bloomberg wants to put off with his new campaign. He's buying these expensive ads. He's trying to put it out into the public consciousness. People shouldn't be armed. People should be disarmed. Guns are bad. Of course, it's okay when the police have guns. Hey, speaking of the NYPD and Michael Bloomberg's personal army, as he used to call them, the NYPD chokehold death was recently ruled a homicide. This from ABCnews.com.
Autopsy just released, and it also cites Eric Garner's health, including asthma and obesity, as contributing factors to his death. But most important here, the medical examiner is saying that it was a police officer's chokehold that caused Garner's death.
And this case has already sparked outrage both here and across the country. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger in the newsroom with the breaking details. Josh.
David, Diana, the bombshell of determination from the medical examiner's office came just in the past hour. Eric Garner's death, a
officially classified, as you say, as a homicide. It's an arrest that sparked outrage across the city back on July 17th as officers attempted to arrest the 43-year-old for allegedly selling untaxed cigarettes on a Staten Island street corner. But when Garner resisted, one officer placed him in an apparent chokehold. He did not die there on the scene, but was eventually pronounced dead at a hospital about an hour later. Today, the medical examiner ruled the cause of Garner's death was compression of his neck in a chokehold, also compression of his chest, and what the ME calls, quote, prone positioning during physical restraint by police. The report cites Garner's asthma, obesity, and cardiovascular disease as contributing factors, but the manner of death has been deemed a homicide. The officer used the apparent chokehold, already relieved of his badge and gun. Pending this investigation, 2 EMTs, 2 paramedics, also suspended in a case which touched a nerve citywide, and already led Police Commissioner Bill Bratton to promise an overhaul of police training in the nation's largest police department. It will be up to the Staten Island District Attorney to decide whether to pursue criminal charges in this case. The DA's office says now it's waiting for an official death certificate before it makes that decision. We have reached out to the mayor's office and the PBA for comment, and we have reporters on the way to Staten Island to speak with Garner's family and members of his community. We will have much more on Eyewitness News at 5. But again, a medical examiner ruling late this afternoon Eric Garner's death was a homicide. Reporting.
All right, well, I look forward to seeing the officers who are responsible treated just like any other schlub who murders another man in plain sight on video against, the family's will, against their conscience. This is exactly the kinds of psychopaths that Stefan and I were talking about earlier, the types of people who love power and they want to abuse their power. You know how, the ethics of a person by how they treat those with less power than them. And when police get any bit of power, here they are ready to abuse it and kill a man, thinking that, it's fine, we'll get away with it. But, technology is bringing humanity past the point where the government or these powerful authority figures even mean anything. What am I talking about? Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, encryption, and now this. Trezor, the ability to send Bitcoin person to person with a hardware Bitcoin wallet. So far, you're probably only familiar with digital Bitcoin wallets, one that lives on the web, one that lives offline, but what about one that lives on hardware? Well, it's now possible. If you've been following Bitcoin for any length of time, you've heard of Trezor. Trezor is how it's spelled, but it's pronounced like treasure. And it's a little white keychain. It looks like about the size of a standard car key. It's got a screen and 2 buttons, one for send, one for receive. I assume I haven't used these things yet, but these devices are what's going to replace the state entirely. We don't need a money system designed by a government that's designed to fail the people and make them poor through inflation. We don't need something that will fund endless wars. We can instead opt for alternative currencies. The future's here now. Let's demand peace and freedom today.
The Onion Weekend Review, pushed to the breaking point after constantly being taken to task without ever hearing a word of thanks for what it does around here. An overwhelmed and infuriated nation announced Wednesday that it was trying, okay? Jesus Christ. A poll of the American populace revealed that 33% felt they were doing pretty damn well, all things considered, while another 28% just wanted 2 measly minutes without somebody breathing down their damn neck. A group of female friends spent a raucous night on the town Thursday validating the living shit out of each other.
You're the most talented person I know.
Eyewitness reports say the women absolutely went to town on a session of non-judgmental reassurances.
Last night was crazy. I don't even remember half the uplifting things I said to Karen. We've always been the kind of group that listens hard and consoles even harder.
And in other news, a group of semester at sea students steal an anchor for their dorm room. A 5-year-old wants to be an overworked Haitian nanny when he grows up. And every group of friends at a karaoke bar ruins every other group's night.
This is the Onion News Network.
This is the Central Scrutinizer. I steal your labor by force through taxation.
My job is to
spy on you and
to keep you from hearing things like the Freedom Fiends. I especially do not want you to torrent
Freedom Fiends episodes to keep them drone-proof. Do not go to freedomfiends.com and click on the torrent link and learn how to torrent
torrent Fiends
archives. Do not go to
freedomfiends.com and click on the torrent
link and learn how to torrent Fiends archives. Do not go to
freedomfiends.com and click on the torrent link
and learn how to torrent Fiends archives.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
The warning signs.
First, he made me feel special.
Hey.
Hey, so wait, how do I do this sound thingy?
Hey, you just end whatever broadcast you're currently listening to.
Okay.
So just
right.
click pause or something. Yep, now I am no longer hearing myself back in my ears. So Kang, are you the Kang?
Kwong. It's Kwong.
Kwong. Oh, excuse me. I've been calling you Kang this whole time. I'm sorry about that. So, Kwong, are you the Kwong who's been in the U.S. Army?
No.
No, okay. Are we friends on Facebook?
I don't think we are yet.
Okay, I'm trying to find you. Because I want to hear more about this, and I know we're not going to have time for the whole thing. But you said you used to be an ANCAP. Oh, we're coming back.
Okay.
You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Are you an anarcho-capitalist? Are you someone who believes in self-ownership, that you have a right to your body, your life, your choices? I sure do. I believe you own your kidneys, and you own the dollars and cents in your pocket just as much as your kidneys. You own your property just as much as your eyeballs. And that extends to homes and all sorts of property. That's how we get private property rights. It's just part of natural, it's part of nature. We own our lips, so we own the words that we say. We own the effects of our actions. So that includes, children, raising children properly, and all this stuff. It has huge implications in how we live and how we interact with others in the world. Kwong, who dials us now on our Skype line, which is Peace News now, says he used to be an ANCAP, but no longer. Kwong, can you explain?
Yeah, so I used to be an ANCAP, and actually I even used to be an atheist, but like learning about nature and also being a computer scientist and writing agents and self-organizing systems, chaos doesn't bring that high level of complexity.
Why do you bring up chaos?
Because chaos is a state of anarchy. It's the state of no law.
But I'm just saying the base ground. Like people.
Wait a minute.
Some
You
people
say that
believe-
you used to be an ANCAP, and you're saying that anarchy is chaos?
Yeah. Like it. Like in a way.
I'm skeptical that you were ever really an ANCAP. If you have.
No, I was an ANCAP hardcore.
So
I still
where
don't
did you
think
get your
about that.
education from? Rothbard, Mises?
Yeah, Rothbard, Mises.
And they never describe anarchy as
Fred-
chaos, do they?
Right, they never did. But I also studied some of the other ones. Like I forgot their names, but like if you look them up, I used to like post this on Wiki. They're like anyway, some of them like they're older like anarchists. Like when it first started out, these anarchists you mentioned are like some of the newer ones that came up with ANCAP.
So you're talking about like Pruitt?
Not him. Anyway, but they eventually came to the conclusion, like the ones that did anarchy and it came to nihilism and communism and all that stuff came out.
Yeah, they never had a foundation in self-ownership.
They were trying to do self-ownership at one point, but then they got disillusioned because they realized that in anarchy you can do anything you want, and if you have the might to force that will onto the reality, then you can hold that position. So they realize anarchy always, the ultimate law, the only law in anarchy is might makes right, not the non-aggression principle. And I wanted to go with the non-aggression principle, so I realized that you have to have a law set down, the universal law set down, and it's non-violatable even under a might.
So the question is, and this is a very interesting question, in a situation of total freedom, which I would call anarchy, is it the state of nature that might makes right? I don't know. Why do you think it does? Why do you think that might makes right in a state of anarchy?
I want to maximize freedom, that's for sure. But total freedom doesn't maximize freedom.
What?
Right. It's a paradox, but it's true.
Total freedom doesn't maximize freedom? Explain.
Right. And under total freedom, somebody has a total freedom to kill you whenever they want. So you always have to have a shotgun to defend your rights. So you always have to be protecting your property.
Or a defense agency.
Or a defense agency, true.
Insurance.
And so like we have
or a good fence.
Something like that. It's called Blackwater. It's called mercenaries, and they're running amok, and they're just like totally like violating everything.
Wait a minute, Kwong. You can't honestly, with any intellectual integrity, suggest that Blackwater is somehow some state of nature anarchist defense agency when they're clearly a creation of the state.
They're a private corporation hired by the state. By multiple states, terrorist organizations, they work for anybody, for any
Okay,
for a
let's
price.
get something clear, though. Just because Apple and Microsoft are private corporations doesn't mean they're not also creations of the state. When something becomes incorporated, they're signing paperwork and registering with the state so that they can limit liability for themselves. They can do things like create wars, torture people overseas, and then foot the bill onto the American people. They don't have liability when they do something wrong, but they get to reap the profits. That's fascism. That's not freedom.
That's correct, and that term actually isn't fascism, but like that's another story. But like
fascism is the merger of state and corporate power, as said by Mussolini, who knew a thing or two about fascism. And I'm sorry to raise my voice, but like let's be real.
That is true. Fascism is the merger of state corporate power, and actually that's pretty close to what corporations and stuff are. But like fascism, actually, the state actually like creates these corporations like out blank. They don't have like a corporate thing, and then they like do contracts like that. But anyway, that's not what I'm trying to say. Like I'm saying, all that stuff that you're mentioning that's horrible now, all that exists, can exist, and will exist in anarchy.
Why?
There's nothing stopping that from happening because anarchy.
Because I won't pay for Blackwater. If they come knocking on my door,
like anybody will, and like they don't have to.
Okay, wait a minute, stop there. I'm gonna mute you. Just hold on a second. I'm Blackwater. I'm going door to door in Anarchyville, and I have to raise private funds in order to continue my service. What's the first question on my first customer's mind going to be? Kwang, ask me, what's your question? As a prospective customer, I've come to your door, I'm saying, hey, I'm Blackwater, come sign up for my business. What are you going to say?
Well, if Blackwater's coming to my door, they're not even going to ask me anything. They're just going to rob me. That's it. They don't need to ask. They're mercenaries. They just do whatever they want. That's my point. Like
that doesn't. I mean, you're blowing my mind right now. Use your imagination. So you really think that Blackwater can go door to door, knocking on everyone without everyone's consent? You know, the people outnumber Blackwater. I mean, okay, I get that you're in Atlanta. I'm in New Hampshire. That's not effing happening in New Hampshire. I'm sorry. You can't go door to door and rob people.
If there was a state where martial law happens, Blackwater will. They do it in Iraq and whatever. They do it whenever. They find opportunities and they build their power. It's about gangs and collective predation in anarchy. I'm saying if we need a state with natural law enforced, we're
by whom?
By the benevolent dictator, I suppose.
Oh, okay. So when we find the unicorn, then we'll be okay.
All right, or the Republic. But on the Republic, a lot of people have to be initiated into sovereignty and natural law and stuff. Education and consciousness has to awaken for a republic to work, and in some ways, in a benevolent dictatorship too. But you have to have an initiated, enlightened, either a leader or people in order to have.
I am skeptical that you have read Mises or Rothbard.
Maximum freedom.
I'm going to mute you. I appreciate your call. Please go back to the books because it's clear that you haven't taken the time to read about self-ownership. Why can't there be a benevolent dictator? Maybe we could talk about that in the third segment, not you and I, but maybe I'll opine on that, or maybe another caller will tell us. Why can't there be a benevolent dictator that will just order society for all 300 million people, and they're going to just let whoever wants to do what they want to do have freedom, so I don't have to obey this benevolent dictator? This makes no sense at all. The only way to freedom is for individuals to declare their personal independence, have that resonate in their own communities until the whole world is free. It's as simple as that. You take control. You have peace in your life. Let that spread throughout your friends and family and the people who you influence in your life, and then we'll have world peace. Benevolent dictators, good luck finding that. It's called a unicorn.
Ross Ulbricht was arrested by the FBI in 2013 and charged with victims' crimes.
Hey, Kwang, you there? I was a little harsh at the end, but it's for effect. And I appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts. They're definitely unusual. And
they are.
And I appreciate your willingness to bring them forward in public. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, we've got the same perspective in most cases.
Well, it doesn't even matter if we have the same perspective. We can at least be cordial and share new ideas with the people. This is the alternative media, and they don't talk about this stuff on Fox News. So I'm grateful to have discussions with people with whom I disagree. Oh, we're getting another call, so I got to let you go. Cheers, Kwang. Thank you. Call in on Tuesday. Hello, caller. You are on Peace News Now. We are on a commercial break. Hello?
Don't call me Francis.
Don't call you Francis. Who's Francis?
You haven't seen Stripes?
Oh, no, I guess I haven't. Sorry. Is that a comedy?
In honor of your last hour's guest in the last segment.
Oh, darn. I'll have to check it out.
Don't call me Francis.
It's a comedy
Plastic
movie?
Lines in the...
Cool.
I know you're a lot younger than I am. Bill Murray.
I'll check it out. I love Bill Murray.
John Candy.
Oh, John Candy's
Harold
hilarious.
Ramis.
Cool.
Yeah, it was very funny.
That's cool.
If you'd gotten that joke, that would have been great, but I understand you're much younger than I.
Sorry,
That's
I do my best. I do my best to catch the jokes.
I knew there was a 50-50 chance.
I'm always the last kid at the lunch table to get the joke.
That's all good with me, as long as you laugh and I can make you think a second time. That is what I endeavor to do.
Well, that's what you called in at just the right time, James, because I'm getting a lot of guff from my callers this episode. I have not had one person on the line who I agree with completely. That's kind of fun.
Right. Well, typically that would be my aim if I have a point of disagreement with you, but it's rare that I have ever heard a Hitler apologist.
Whoa, I know, right?
Somebody that I would hope that Pooh Tang head is not old enough to vote, so I can forgive him for his absolute ignorance, let alone stupidity. I mean, Hitler, by the way, was appointed chancellor by Hindenburg, and within 2 months was absolute dictator of Hitler, and it's Schott that stabilized the currency and who also answered for his crimes of theft from Jewish people and crimes against humanity.
It really
13 years later, during something.
I mean,
during something called.
We're so fortunate to live during the age of information, so people can look up all of this alternative history. But then there's dangers to that, where like if you believe stuff that's obviously bunk, it's written by lunatics, Hitler apologists. I mean, you're gonna have a bad time.
Right. Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned the word alternative. There's truth, and then there's not truth. Sure. I'm not interested in some. I know you've used this word before, alternative media. Again, MSNBC is alternative media to me, and it's all a bunch of progressivism from the left end of the spectrum, and it's not true. But they.
Well, I just mean like not mainstream. You know, originating from the little guy.
Well, I kind of get what you're talking about, but
well, the little guy isn't always right.
Al Jazeera is not mainstream either, or it is mainstream in a huge part of the world.
Yeah.
No, they're actually.
Well, I would consider Al Jazeera pretty mainstream. But anyway.
They're wholly owned subsidiary of the Qatari government.
I thought they were owned by Al Gore. Hey, hold that thought. We're coming back.
Flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
I can hardly believe we are at the final segment of this episode. The hours have just flown by. Thank you, callers, for all of your original thoughts. Thank you for sharing unpopular opinions, ideas that make us think, and some ideas that make us go, like Hitler apologists. What was that about? What do you think, James?
People that are stupid enough to believe it's the economy stupid would vote for Bill Clinton because some propagandists taught people to believe that that's why they should, and he did win the presidency because of that.
Well, I aim for this show. No, I aim for this show to be propaganda as well, James. I just aim for it to be counter-propaganda, propaganda for the other side.
Right on. I'm good with that.
Yeah,
propaganda for peace. First tell the truth, then give your opinion.
Yeah. Well,
first tell the truth, then give your opinion. And just real quickly for your previous two callers, maybe this is too deep a thought, but it is not mine. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I know that Tang didn't know that a Dachau opened up for business within a couple months of Hitler's rise to power. And that was their first concentration camp, just so the kid knows. And a lot of the success that Hitler's regime had in the early goings was by absolute theft, loot, and murdering people that they didn't want around.
Well, thank you, James, for filling us in that Hitler was a bad
I could go on and on.
I mean, like,
I could go on and on, but
yeah, it's funny that anyone would need to be corrected on that. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing. But okay, yes, Hitler was bad.
I just want to throw a few facts out there so the kid maybe would think a second time about how grotesque his position.
Yeah.
Because the German people made the economy roar, not Hitler. Hitler didn't do anything. He was a lazy MFer, literally. But that's another story. Right. I wanted to take you on and I share sentiments with, again, your first hour was excellent, and Stefan was a very cool dude.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Delightful chap.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk with him again. He sounds like a wealth of knowledge, and I have a lot to learn from him.
I'm just going to throw up a few thoughts to you, and then I'd like you to finish the rest of the story, because I finished the rest of the story about that little encounter you had with the one kid broke somebody's back and he's walking around free on the streets. He's not in jail. Is that what he's been charged with, and everybody knows he did it, right?
Yeah, everyone knows he did it. It's basically on camera, and
Somebody has a broken back because of this kid, and he's walking down the streets.
No, the guy, he didn't break his back. It's not like he's paralyzed for life, but he probably will never walk the same again. He broke ribs. He had a concussion. He broke a piece of his arm and his leg. So he was thrown into a fountain made of rocks.
Okay,
So
if the judge suspects he did that, he's been indicted for it, and now he's gone to pre-trial, I guess is what you were calling out of the courthouse.
Correct.
I don't understand why the guy's a free man, because there are reasons for somebody to be behind bars until they're actually maybe found not guilty before. But
yeah,
whatever. I
that
can't
is
believe
such
he's
a
free
tough
man.
one for me, James, because like I don't believe in jails at all. Having been to jail many times, I just feel like jails shouldn't even exist. You know, humans don't belong in cages.
Oh my God. Okay, we can't have this conversation right now because I would love to just talk to you about that. It's a huge subject that I didn't call to talk to you about.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
We'll table
I just advocated that kid should be in jail.
I know, well,
right now.
I'm having
He shouldn't
second
have fallen
thoughts.
around, so
Well-
obviously I disagree with you.
Well,
on
I brought it up
that.
because I'm having second thoughts about that belief. So, but you know, we can
Okay,
talk about that later. What did you
but
call
I
to
didn't
talk
mean
about?
to. Well, I am worried about you. Okay, you're following around punks like that. Okay, you got to remember the code of the schoolyard. Your mom tells you don't pick on somebody smarter than you because you're going to have your feelings hurt. And your daddy should tell you don't pick on somebody bigger than you because you're going to really have your feelings hurt.
Right.
Okay, and that's what Stefan was trying to tell you. Dude, you've got to change your tactic, because if you want to live in one free state project to succeed in New Hampshire, you've got to stop pissing off the locals, especially the local thugs who don't have any peaceful resistance as their first mindset. In fact, the kid is obviously an animal, and partly it has to do with the kid's probably a teenager.
Yeah. Well, no,
or in his
he's
young 20s.
He's 24, but you're
Okay.
right. You're right. It was tactically a very poor decision. I'm facing a lot of valid criticism from fellow activists who are saying like, hey, man, these aren't cops. There's no political gain here. Just leave them alone. Let them be thugs. There's nothing you can do to save them. They were ruined in their childhood, and they're just playing out their bad childhood.
Well, I believe anybody can be saved if they're approached in a manner that's not going to make a rabid dog want to bite you.
Okay.
And that's what you were doing.
I see.
Okay, Catholic, I do believe in people's souls being redeemable up until the time they have passed on and don't repent, because then it's in God's hands, solely in God's hands. But I'm just praying that you got to change your tactics. And
Well, what should I have done? Should I have run? Because I think that looks pretty weak.
No, you shouldn't have been following them to begin with, and you've got to start respecting people's when.
Well, wait a
okay,
minute.
People don't want to be filmed.
I'm a local.
Don't film them. Come
I'm a
on
local
now.
indie journalist. I'm an indie journalist, and I cover.
Wait. Okay, I know. Let me put it this way. I know that there are people that agree with me that live in your town.
Sure.
Because thanks to you, there's something I found out about called Stop Freeing Keene. It's a fascinating website.
Yes.
And it's all because of you and your. Well, I don't want to even go there.
I wear that as a badge of honor.
He called me a bootlicker, by the way, last time I called into his show.
I called
Isn't
you a
that
bootlicker?
Great? No, he called me a bootlicker. Bootlicker, your roommate.
Oh.
You know why?
Why?
Because I registered my car, and I suggested another friend of yours should pay his registration and get a license, because they're so innocuous as far as misdemeanors in the law go. He wasn't even arrested when he got pulled over, because any cop anywhere, dude, pay your registration.
Why?
Pay the modicum of the fine.
Why?
Well, okay.
I'm willing to listen.
Okay, I have so few seconds to. I'd be glad to answer the why.
We got 4
another
minutes
day,
left.
but we do not. New Hampshire is not a tyrannical state, and everybody having to have their car registered and have a license. He is a New Hampshire resident. When he tries to deny that, he's lying. He calls himself a minister. If you're asked a direct question, you don't have a right to not answer directly if you call yourself a minister. You answer, yeah, I'm a resident in New Hampshire. Okay, then why don't you have a New Hampshire license? Okay, like everybody else does. Dude, it's $25. It's not like an evil
I think it's the principle.
benevolent
It's not the
dictator.
price.
I get the principle.
Yeah, well, he
But
feels
then
like he
there's-
shouldn't
then
have to
there's
comply.
There's the time of pragmatism as well. Like,
Okay. So this isn't your
can't
style of
fight
activism,
power.
but it's not hurting you any. What's it hurting you
I
that
know
he
it
doesn't
isn't.
register his car?
It's hurting the city of Keene because they have to pay for the judge. Okay, everybody, equality under the law. Everybody's going to be run through the law system if they don't pay for their license and registration. And all you had to do was pay for it. And now it's going through this trial. It's so stupid. Okay,
Yeah,
nobody. You're not encouraging anybody to vote libertarian when they see people do this stuff.
Oh, I don't care if anybody
Fight-
votes libertarian. I just
I
want
do.
them to consider that they should disobey bad laws.
I agree with you there. They should disobey evil laws. Whether or not it's a bad law, it can be easily changed if you can change the people's minds that do vote.
Yeah.
God, it's
Yeah,
not
you know,
that hard to do.
Well, hey, there are lots of different strategies for it. My friend Michelle Seven, she also drove for many years without registration, but she had a different approach. When she was out at restaurants or anywhere where people could see her car, she would say, "Hey, do you register your vehicle?" And of course the answer is yes. And she would say, "Would you do it if you didn't have to?" And they would consider it, they would think about it for a second and say, "Well, no, I guess I wouldn't." And she said, "Well, I haven't registered my car in 10 years. And they would say, "Well, like, wow, you can do that?" I mean, I think that we could have a better system than registration, and all it takes is people to put some effort into using their imagination to imagine a better system before just saying, like, I'll just keep complying with whatever the 100-year-old system is, because, you know, there's not like there's any improvements in technology that we could use to better verify the owner of a vehicle or the driver of a vehicle. I mean, Ian, a person who you dislike a lot, he puts his phone number as one of his front-facing plates. I think that's great for accountability.
I'm just gonna leave you real quick with a thought.
Okay.
I could talk to you for the whole 2 hours straight without skipping a beat about all the things in this world that our government does that is wrong, and it's costing taxpayers real money, and doing real harm to our society. And I don't even have to talk about the drug war.
Right.
Okay. On the list on the list of battles that you should be fighting, a license and registration requirements for everybody, including you and everybody else that wants to drive on the public roads, comes in near the last place. Okay, peace be with you, buddy. I gotta go. I literally need to be at work.
All right, rock
Thanks
on.
for taking me
Thanks
on.
for calling in, and peace be with you. Always appreciate a final call from James. Always appreciate your calls. Thanks for dialing in. I've got a registration story, but I'll have to hold it for Tuesday. We all comply or non-comply in different ways. Hopefully you will refuse to comply with bad laws this week. See you Tuesday.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent